Oh, wait. Looks like it's working now.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
Do you see it? I think
I
I think we might be
I
live right
don't,
now.
but that's okay. Yeah. So welcome in, everyone, and sorry for the initial delay. This is the Urban Files. This is a show where we discuss all things cities. About the development, about everything that we love about cities and living, working, and playing within them. And so, Max, I know that you are actually back in Florida for a little bit, but I know that you made a huge move recently. You moved to Taipei, one of the great cities in Asia. So I just wanted to check, how are things going so far for you overall?
Yeah, I am back in Florida temporarily to take care of some family issues, but um, I had been living in Taipei for over 2 months, close to 2.5 months, and before I left. So kind of got my bearings, kind of got things situated. The rest of the family's still there, and then I'll be heading back very soon. So um, things are really good. We were able to get settled very quickly, which was unexpected, or at least unplanned. I figured we need a lot more time, but it was almost like a full-time job to get acclimated. Like we were taking care of errands and items and setting up our home. Um, for the first couple of weeks, it was sort of a 9 to 5 type of situation, and I think that helped accelerate things for us. But everybody's doing pretty well, and as I said, I was stepping back for a moment. I was kind of surprised how quickly we got acclimated and kind of got settled in. So
Well, that's awesome. And that's honestly like that's probably the hardest part, especially when you're, moving continents. And I know obviously you have experienced kind of living and visiting Asia before. And so that probably helped you compared to where you'd otherwise be making a move like that. I also understand you had some family underground helping you, so that was probably useful too. So,
definitely.
for those people that aren't really familiar with Taipei, and I think that's probably a lot of people, if you aren't, from haven't traveled there previously, which part of the city are you in, and how would you kind of describe that neighborhood in terms of like the amenities, what stuff you're close to, and all of that?
Yeah. So we're in central Taipei. Um, I can't really give you much history on the city and sort of the urban development, uh, unfortunately. So I would say, first of all, there's not really a an epicenter exactly in the sense of like a Times Square in New York City or a I don't know, Shinjuku. I don't know if that's quite right for Tokyo, but sort of like a major central location that's bustling. Um, in Taipei, there's not exactly that. And it's sort of, I hesitate to say multinodal, but there's a couple sort of central areas, central clusters, if you will. Um, and so we're in one of those. But a lot of times uh, our districts are considered central, not so much because of the commerce, not because of any sort of political base there. Like the presidential office is not located where we are. That's another area, and perhaps sort of the financial center is elsewhere as well. At least I'm not sure where it is. It's not where we live. But where we live is well known because of Taipei 101, which is sort of the major landmark there. City Hall is also located in our general region. So that kind of describes sort of can sort of describe the general area. And as I said, it's central Taipei. And a lot of times we're right on the border between two districts. And a lot of times those two districts are considered by most people to be sort of the districts, like the expensive, desirable, trendy area, if you
It
will. So
districts.
I don't want to put it up there because there are a lot of interesting parts of Taipei elsewhere. Very interesting, hip, the coolest street, in each country kind of thing. You'll see Taiwan's on that list with other parts of town, not just our area. So there are places that are interesting, hip, but still sort of our districts. The two districts that we're in are kind of the old guard for established, desirable neighborhoods. So.
Right, right. So that makes sense. And I think the name, if you remember, I think it was Zinyi and
Yes,
Don. I'm not sure if I pronounced those correctly, but
correct. So
yeah.
Sinyi and Dan, those are we're basically on the road that divides those two.
Awesome. And I think you were that's great. You pointed out Taipei 101, and I think that is, I mean, at least if you're into cities and you're kind of here with us, that is probably one of the things you would know. I think it had like a 6-year run as the world's tallest building, maybe from like 2004 to 2010, and kind of like interceding leading up to the Burj Khalifa really having will probably be a very lengthy run on top there, but really a cool building too. I mean, like with the kind of traditional style, and despite the modern structure kind of having that traditional Asian design incorporated within it. So really that seems like it'd be a really cool area for you guys. And it sounds like you really are getting settled well and enjoying it. So I know one of the things we talked about was kind of having that urban experience and being in such a vibrant kind of setting on a regular basis. What would you say are some of the surprises or some of the things that you've enjoyed most in your day-to-day in terms of doing that?
Interesting. Well, yeah, I look out my window and I have this really cool view of Taipei 101. So that's neat, both because of the building you were just talking about and also kind of engages me each day with where I am. It's like a reminder and a grounding of, okay, this is where I am, this is where I'm going. And it's it's a massive building in Taipei, so it's often viewable from whatever vantage point you're at. So it definitely serves as a daily reminder. I don't know what would be surprising. I feel like for me personally, I adjusted to that environment very quickly without really thinking about it. Of course, I've traveled to many big cities, so I'm used to those things. But previously, our last home base was a very suburban environment. So I guess one would think that it could be a challenging transition, but I haven't really noticed that. Now I will say I've come back to Florida currently, and I've been here for about 3 weeks now, and I have noticed sort of the reverse change has been a big transition.
Yeah.
I think I think that probably just indicates that it's sort of a personal comfort level, right? And I feel much more comfortable in sort of the urban environment, and so I don't really think about it when I enter that type of a space, but when I leave it, it's quite noticeable. So now I'm back in a very, very Florida suburban environment, and I'm enjoying it. It's a brief respite from sort of the hectic urban craziness sometimes. And I've been, this is probably going off on a tangent from where you were initially thinking, but I have actually really enjoyed my parents' suburban neighborhood a lot more than I previously did. So it's kind of like a nice respite, but then I'll be ready to
kind
go.
of that balance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice for a short time.
Right. It makes sense. Makes sense. It's almost like a retreat in a sense. It's kind of, I think it's very human of us to kind of like crave for a little bit, whatever the opposite is. But I mean, we are the urban files here, not the suburban files. So you wouldn't be in Taipei if you didn't like
That's
that vibrant environment, right? So, one of the things I understand is you really have gotten a lot into biking, I think, since you got there. Is that right?
right. That's our primary mode of transportation. So, our daily sphere, I guess, my older son's school, my younger son's kindergarten or preschool, my wife's gym, we have two different markets that we go to often and another grocery store. All of these things, our friends, close friends, and my aunt, everybody is within sort of a 12, 13-minute walk from our home. And yet, so it's totally walkable, but yet the convenience of having a bicycle and being able to park bicycles pretty much everywhere. I don't think there's any block where you can't park a bike. There may be a certain section where it wouldn't make sense to park a bicycle, but every block you're going to find plenty of bicycle space to park. Means that we take instead of walking 5 minutes, 10 minutes to somewhere, we'll take our bicycle and cut that travel time in half or by 2/3, especially because of the kids, and we want to get them going. It might be a bit slower if they were having to walk everywhere. So it's definitely a walkable neighborhood that we're in, but bicycling is sort of a shortcut. It just kind of makes it a little bit easier, a little bit quicker to get around from place to place. So that's been our primary mode of transportation. This bicycle, that's a 3-seater. So me, my wife, and one of the kids, or me and both kids, can easily get around that way. We also have a scooter, a stand-up scooter that we use as sort of the secondary backup vehicle. So if we're all going somewhere, then my wife can take the scooter. I can also use the scooter with one of the kids pretty comfortably. 2 kids is a little bit awkward. So that's not recommended to get most places unless it's just down the street. But anyway, bicycle, primary method of transportation. We almost have to intentionally walk somewhere if we want to kind of get that exercise and get a little bit more walking. We consciously have to say, let's walk this time. We try to make our older son walk either to school or home from school, at least one way, just so that he's getting that
character building. Yeah, I mean, you got to, right? But uphill both ways in the snow, right? Or the monsoon. So yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, I just wanted to touch on, assuming that you're also thinking, what is the infrastructure like for this? And so I'd say that biking, especially sort of in the central area where we are, is very, very, the infrastructure is very, very conducive to comfortable biking. You do still need to, it does take a bit of an adjustment to get used to how people interact, how you kind of get into traffic and deal with other bikes and other pedestrians. But once you're used to it, it's actually very easy to get around. There's usually a very, very large lane, basically a large section of sidewalk for bicyclists. Sometimes it's totally exclusive for bicyclists, and you can feel sort of in the right when there's a pedestrian getting in your way. You can feel like you should honk at them, get out. Other times there is a dedicated space, but it's sort of a shared with pedestrians. And so then, you're still good. It's still usually very clear, but maybe you want to still look out for pedestrians because they may be coming in. You want to kind of be polite about it. But everywhere, there's a large section of sidewalk for pedestrians already everywhere, and then another large section for pedestrians / cyclists, sometimes just cyclists, and then and then that's all separated from the street. Usually that's how it is in most of the areas that I travel around. And then as I've spread myself further out throughout the city, it seems to be that way most of the time. Yeah, so there's some nuances to what I'm saying, but I just don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
But
no,
generally speaking,
I hear you, but it sounds like it's really fantastic setup, and it sounds like if there is anywhere like that in the US, it's very limited in having that type of quality and stuff like that.
yeah, I mean, I want to caution that I don't have experience with some of the best bicycle environments in the world, particularly in Europe. Amsterdam comes to mind. In Taipei, bicycles still are not the dominant mode of transportation. I mean, that's still going to be cars, scooters, especially, and when I say scooters, I mean like sort of the motorcycle type
Yeah,
scooters,
yeah.
and then public transportation. Those are how the majority of people get around. So it's not like in Amsterdam where you're like with the masses when you're bicycling. It's
Biketopia.
yeah, but it's still very comfortable and easy. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I appreciate you taking the time to share kind of some thoughts about this experience so far. Just any other parting thoughts or things that are upcoming, maybe a day trip to the World Baseball Classic in Taichung, or for those viewers that are anime fans, to Jufen, the setting for Spirited Away.
yeah, joking. I we'll see. I don't know. I would like to get down to Taichung in the future. I have not been there, and I know the World Baseball Classic will be having a few games there. I Yeah, there's different things. Dwight Howard is now playing basketball in Taiwan. I haven't looked into the logistics of whether I can make it to any of his games. I've heard that they're pretty much sold out, so that may be an issue. But it's been major headline news, and he had huge welcome at the airport when he arrived a few days ago. So I'll have to look into that. The basketball environment in Taiwan's a little bit interesting, as you and I have spoken a little bit about sports in Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. The way they set up their leagues are different from what an American would be used to. But basketball, particularly in Taiwan, is an open, sort of a wild, wild west right now, it seems, because there was a void when the original primary league folded. And now there's currently 2 leagues with 6 teams each that are in their infancy. I think they both started post-COVID, so they're very new. And Anthony Bennett, the former #1 pick from, I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, he plays in one league. I happen to have a childhood friend who also plays in that league.
Wow.
Then Dwight Howard coming over, I was so excited when I saw that. And then I found out, wait, Dwight's going to the other league that is also kind of vying for eyeballs and vying for supremacy. So they actually that was a good move. It cost a pretty penny, but that was a good move to get in the headlines. So
yeah.
Anyway,
it sounds like big business, and it sounds a little bit like what's going on in the American golf scene. So it'll be interesting to hear about this one sort of comes ahead. But hopefully you get to see Dwight in action. I mean, it just seems like it'd be a show in general, and he's just a great pure athlete. I mean, everything else aside. So that's pretty cool that he's over there.
Yeah. So maybe I'll get a chance to, and we can talk about that some more. I did get to a baseball game. We could talk about that sometime.
Oh yeah.
And then there's certainly more to do for us in terms of integrating into society over there. But so far, it's been great.
Right, absolutely. And how can people interact with or follow you or kind of ask more questions about your experiences if they wanted to kind of know more based on what they've seen here?
Probably you can leave a comment here in this video. We check urban files periodically, but my general social media stuff is Fire Walking Journey, Fire Walking Journey, for, I don't know, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. So yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
All right, cool.